Classic precision power amplifiers were a staple of the 1990s, especially the Art series with the amazing artwork by Carolyn Hall Young. Now, I've shown several of these videos in the past, including the A404, the A600, the A300, some of the earlier PPI Pro Moss series. Check links in the video description. I'll try to link you to all the ones I've actually shown before. The Pro Art 100, that's one I forgot about. Very rare, very expensive amplifier. But yeah, so there's one that I forgot to show you guys that I actually made a video of a while back, or actually took the clips. Back in 1996, Precision Power introduced the .2 series, which were supposed to have a bigger, better power supply, noise reduction technology, and exceptional sound quality, according to this advertisement. We're going to look at the A1200.2, which back then, $12.99 was the retail price. That's about $2,600 in 2025. As for dimensions, 24 inches by 9.2 by 2 inches. So this is a big amplifier. Back in the day, we would consider this almost a surfboard amplifier, even though it's not 3 feet or longer like some of the surfboard amps. This was definitely a top-of-the-line amplifier from a very well-respected company, Precision Power. The very unique artwork for these amplifiers was done by Carolyn Hall Young. She started making the artwork for the late 80s PPI Pro Moss series and Art series amplifiers. But according to this information, the .2s were done without her permission because they modified it. She didn't get paid. It's one of those things. It's unfortunate. But that is the past. Let's take a look at this one end of the amp here. You can see the speaker plug, the gain control, RCA inputs, the low impedance light, and the power LED. That's right, this one for 2 ohms actually had a light that would come on. And it has these Weco style speaker plugs and power plugs, which I'm not a fan of. Talked about those before. On the opposite end, we have 2 60 amp fuses, the Maxi style, and then we have the power plug for power and ground. This is a Weco style plug. And unfortunately, this one is only for 8 gauge wire. And the reason I don't like these, I know they fit in the amplifier nice and tight, but they are hard to get out. You really have to pry them out. And unfortunately, a lot of cases that will damage the amp. As I mentioned, this was done several years ago, but let's go to the amp on the bench. All right, here we have this beautiful Precision Power Art Series A1200.2 here on the dyno. Unfortunately, this one came with an 8 gauge power plug. It's got 2 80 amp fuses here and an 8 gauge, which I did 4-inch 8 gauge to 0 gauge. So that should be okay because it's such a short run there. See, this amp is big. It's beautiful too. So let's try it out and see how it does on the dyno. All right, we have the dyno fired up. Let's wire up the amplifier for stereo connection and do the 2-channel test first. 4 ohms. It's rated 300 watts by 2, anywhere between 11.5 and 16 volts. We're going to try it probably around 14 volts. Here we go. Stereo 1 kilohertz. We get right at that 300 watts at 14.3. And we'll go to the uncertified test, which takes us up to the clipping point. Again, looks like we're using the 40 hertz track here. We get 314 and 297, so about 307 or so watts average. Next up, we'll try dynamic power, which sends a pulse tone into the amplifier. And again, very similar output here across all 3 tests. Now let's try 2 ohms. It's rated 600 watts by 2. Let's try it out here on the dyno. 1 kilohertz test track here. And once again, we're close to the 600 by 2, but a little bit shy, about 30 watts or so shy average. About 570 watts or so times 2. Uncertified to clipping, again, about 10% or so shy of the rated power. And then we'll try the dynamic test, see if we can get that 600 by 2. And once again, we're a little bit shy. A little bit disappointed, but those who've seen these tests before know Precision Power was a little bit overrated, but you would never know the difference, honestly. Next up, we'll bridge the amplifier mono Take the stereo amp and from 2 channels into 1. It's rated 1200 watts. Let's see what we get here. Certified to 1% distortion at 40 hertz and right at it again, 1140, just 60 watts shy of the rating at 13.81. Now we'll try the uncertified test. Can we get that 1200 uncertified? Close. 1165, 13.6. Then we'll try the dynamic track. Maybe we can get 1200 dynamically. Let's see if we can. There we go, right at it. Oh yes, we do get it. 1207, 1212. Is it going to go any higher? 1212. And all those tests were done using the 40 hertz tracks. We decided to try the 1 kilohertz track. And here you can see it, almost identical, just literally about 10 watts or so shy of the 40 hertz test. 1195, 13.94. Here are all the results from the test. 4 ohm stereo, 2 ohm stereo, 4 ohms mono. And of course the efficiency on a class AB old school amp is not going to be good. Between 50 and 60% is what we expect, and that's what we got. Now I know a lot of the guys out there like to see what's inside these amplifiers, especially these old school vintage amps, because they're not like the cookie cutters that are today where everything looks virtually the same. So let's take out the bottom. Here you can see, notice the bottom panel actually has these little tabs built in, and these help clamp down the transistors on the board. So you have to be careful when you take the bottom of these off. Make sure that when you do put it back on that it has some of that thermal compound, also that the bottom is tightened very well. Here you can see overall the look of the amp, very beefy. You can see this one's been recapped, 2200 microfarad, 63 volt. These are Nichicons on the power supply side, but it also has the same caps on the rails, 2200 microfarad, 63 volt. Of course, originally it wouldn't have that high of voltage, especially for the power supply, but it doesn't matter as long as you have the right capacitance there. It's okay. Here we can see the Sanken chips, the 1303s. These are BJTs, known for their sound quality. Of course, the other ones were the C3584s, I think, or 3284s. And here you can see the power supply section with the beefy transformer. And again, all the power supply FETs, the 9540s and the 9535s here. These are ST Corporation. You guys know these are good parts. And here you can see the RCAs, and I talk about this a lot, about why I like Tiffany style. These are not Tiffany style. I'm going to show you. Notice how they mount on the board, and when you push in and out the RCAs, it puts a lot of pressure on the board. That's why I like the Tiffany style, because it uses the panel to handle the RCAs, not the board itself. Made in the USA, of course, precision power. Let's try dynamic at 2 ohms mono. This amp is not rated to handle 2 ohms mono, but we're going to try it using the 1 kilohertz track. Can it survive? And yes, it does. And check out these numbers. 1871 watts, 13.94. There you have it. Precision Power A1200.2. Hope you guys enjoy seeing these old school amps on the amp dyno, showing you the guts, talking about them. In this case, unfortunately, I didn't have it playing back with any speakers or anything, but still you get the idea. This thing is beef, it's beauty, it's brawn, it's everything. You don't find stuff like this anymore, but there you have it. Precision Power from 1996 with the A1200.2. Thanks as always for watching. Make sure you smash me a thumbs up, subscribe to Old School Stereo on YouTube if you haven't already, because I have Wilson Audio Labs and Old School Stereo, but I love making these videos for you guys and hope you enjoy them. So we'll catch you on the next one. Big D out.